private sector is doing fine.
He says we need more firemen, more policemen, more teachers. Did he not get the message of Wisconsin?
We're being forced to arrest innocent people. We're being forced, everything was about numbers, 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 numbers. They were obsessed with the number.
This is King trying to shake it. Brett poked up under.
Sorry, Devils fans, that last one was for you, Dad. Good evening and welcome to RFL. I'm Andrew Whitman, in tonight for Richard French. We want to thank you for joining us on this Tuesday evening, the 12th of June. We've got a lot to get to tonight, as always. First up, politics. Do gaffes matter? Campaign season is always rife with those misspoken statements by the candidates, and we in the news media, we sure go to town on them. But should we? Do they really matter? And up next, is Romney a big bully? New news out today about his attempts as governor to block publication of a state anti-bullying guide. The reason why may surprise you. We'll get into it. And later, stop and frisk. We're going to sit down with an expert who will explain how the NYPD became so obsessed with numbers. And later, partisanship. You get the feeling that we're in a very deeply divided moment in America right now. You are not alone. And turns out there are new numbers to help back up that sneaking suspicion. It is all coming up on this edition of RFL, but we're going to be in tonight with the latest poll numbers. And it's sort of a mixed bag today in the world of polling. In three important battleground states, the margin remains razor thin. First up, North Carolina. The latest numbers from Public Policy showing, that is a Democratic-leaning pollster, show Mitt Romney up by 2. Now he's also up by 1 point in Iowa, that according to the latest Rasmussen numbers, a Republican-leaning pollster. And in Pennsylvania, it's Obama up by 6 points, and that the latest numbers from Quinnipiac, whose numbers have been pretty much down the middle. Now both candidates clearly have their work cut out for them as we continue on the path to November. Shifting gears to some numbers out of our region and some regional polling, New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, turns out he's getting his highest favorability ratings ever. 50% view Governor Christie favorably. Only 39% of New Jersey residents view him unfavorably. That's pretty good, right? But it's not even the top of the list in our region. Not if you compare the Governor Christie's numbers to those of New York Governor Andrew Cuomo. According to a new poll out from Siena yesterday, Cuomo has a 70% favorability rating, and he's even doing well among Republicans. According to a recent poll, 68% of New York Republicans approve of Andrew Cuomo's performance as governor. So first question we're going to start with tonight is, why is Governor Cuomo doing so well? To answer that and many, many others, we turn to tonight's panelists. We begin with Jessica Proud, Republican strategist and vice president at NLO Strategies, Dominic Carter, political journalist and author, and Brad Gersman, a political consultant based on Long Island. And Jessica, let me start with you. A lot of partisanship in the country right now. We're going to get to that in depth in a little bit. But why is Andrew Cuomo doing so well among Republicans in New York?
Well, you've really seen him work well with the Republican Senate, and frankly, the past two governors before him have set the bar really low. So he's been able to demonstrate effective government, state government is working again, and he's also started to tackle, albeit top line, some of the fiscal challenges that this state is facing right now. So I think people are responding to that. He also has this Committee to Save New York that's been up on the air with millions of dollars of ads in support of the governor, which certainly has been helping his poll numbers as well. It's
interesting that we have two very popular governors on either side of the Hudson River with two dramatically different styles. Andrew Cuomo has been the nice guy, at least in public. We've heard about him having a bit of a sledgehammer behind closed doors. Chris Christie is sledgehammer all the time. Sure. Does style matter in this?
Well, no, and this is what matters. This is what the American people want to see, and that's what you're seeing here in New York and New Jersey, is government actually doing something. And I think the political parties are more idealistic, and I think what's going on is the people, they just want to see something happen. And when you look in Washington and you see that nothing is happening, and you say New York and Albany has been so dysfunctional, New Jersey has been tremendously dysfunctional as well, and now you're seeing governors and leadership that are able to move this forward in any direction. People don't even care about the specifics. I don't think you can get people on the street to even name some of the specifics, but they like the fact things are getting done.
Dominic, we got a Republican governor of New Jersey, popular with Democrats. We've got a Democratic governor of New York, popular with Republicans. Are there lessons here for Barack Obama? Is there any way that he can shift some of the popularity among Republicans.
Sure, there are lessons for President Obama, but it takes two to tango. You know, he can't do it by himself. In order for him to show bipartisanship, guess who has to come to the table and dance with them, Jessica? Republicans. And the problem is, you know, each party is, they're aligned along philosophies and so on. And in this election year, we're not going to see that dance. Republicans are not coming to the table, and that's just the way it is.
He's got a majority in the House, or in the Senate, I'm sorry.
In the Senate, but in the House, things are not that well.
It's too late for the president. The president is toast. He had it, and when he had the time.
Toast?
Well,
I think he's in trouble, but you say toast?
Toast, because in terms of moving anything forward. He can't possibly do anything now because we're in the campaign season.
The president is toast. You could argue that was a little bit of a verbal gaffe, Brad. We gave you a chance to bring it back. Which brings us to gaffes. We in the TV business, we tend to hone in on every little mistake politicians make. Whatever they say, we blow it out of proportion, guilty over here as well, and then we watch the chips fall where they may. And this campaign season, no different. Here are just a few, a sample, a smattering of the best Obama-Romney gaffes from this campaign season so far, and there's even one from 2008.
The private sector is doing fine.
He says we need more firemen, more policemen, more teachers. Did he not get the message of Wisconsin?
I'm not concerned about the very poor.
And over the last 15 months, we've traveled to every corner of the United States. I've now been in 57 states. I think one left to go.
Corporations are people, my friend.
My last election, after my election, I am more flexible.
It's almost like an Etch-a-Sketch. You can kind of shake it up and we start all over again.
I'll tell you what, 10,000 bucks, $10,000 bet.
It's like going down memory lane. Hard to believe there's still 5 months until the general election. The question, though, is do gaffes really matter, or is it just good TV? According to the Washington Post's Chris Cillizza, they do matter. Regarding Obama's comment that the private sector is doing fine, Cillizza wrote, quote, "In the media world in which we live, even the smallest comment can be amplified into a national headline in minutes, as his was. Is there anyone even passing attention to politics who hasn't seen the Obama clip 5 times at this point? This political gaffe can and almost certainly will matter." But Tim Murphy of Mother Jones retorted, saying the idea that we should talk about it because we'll be talking about it is pretty circular. The role of a political reporter isn't to predict the future, it's to cut through the baloney. In this case, Obama tripped on his line, but his factual point does stand. Personally, there are so many of these things that you know, you hear a gaffe and it'll be echoed all across the web and all over political ads. I'm not sure if it's creating so much noise that they're all getting drowned out, but what do you guys think? Do gaffes matter, and do they matter as much as they used to, where in an earlier era, one gaffe could kill your entire campaign?
Well, there are more gaffes than ever because there's more media and there's more people with the phones and all kinds of recording devices. So it's easy to find a gaffe. It's easy to turn it into a headline because of all the different media outlets that are out there and blogs, et cetera, on the internet. But the gaffe and the headline is only for about 5 minutes. And then it goes away, and then we wait for the next thing. And if you look at poll numbers, do you see them swinging wildly from side to side based on these gaffes?
Fair point.
No. So, people, I hope, are a little more interested in the facts.
Well, it depends on the degree of the gaffe, I think. And the president's latest one shows a total tone deafness to what's going on in people's homes right now when they're sitting at their kitchen tables trying to pay their bills. He has demonstrated a complete lack of sensitivity as to the 23 million Americans that are out of work or underemployed right now. So I think that's the bigger problem here, and it will matter. The Romney campaign can go up and spend millions of dollars in ads, just repeating that over and over again, and people are going to respond to that.
She's right on message, I'll tell you.
2 political strategists at the table. How do you walk back a gaffe to the point where you can bear? I mean, obviously it's big enough you're not going to be able to get it past you, but is there an approach? Do you have to just face it and own it and say I made a mistake, or how do you?
It depends if it's a big enough, like Jessica said, if it's a big enough gaffe, then obviously you have to walk it back. You have to provide an explanation. Okay, you have to add some some color to that and put it in context more so. A lot of these gaffes are just soundbite snippets that are taken out of context, and it's unfair to the people who have actually who spoke those words. In this case, it's clearly not in context. what we're talking about, and the president saying that, you know, the economy's doing just fine. That's not exactly what he meant. He knows, he's not stupid. He wants the economy to do really well, because then, of course, he gets reelected. So the concept that maybe people don't, you know, or have interpreted his statement as being that he doesn't want the economy to do well. He doesn't want the private sector to thrive. That's just complete nonsense.
All right, we're gonna move on. In this one, I thought we were done with this story, and it popped back up again, and that's Mitt Romney's alleged history as a high school bully. It seemed to bite him in the you-know-what a couple of weeks ago. You'll remember Mitt's past made headlines last month when information about an incident in high school came out of the woodwork. In high school, Romney allegedly held down a somewhat effeminate student, forcibly cut off his long hair. The student later came out as gay. Now, this is the story in the Boston Globe today. It says that in 2006, Romney's administration, when he was governor of Massachusetts, blocked the publication of an anti-bullying guide for public schools. Why? Emails obtained by the paper say that the issue was the document's use of the terms bisexual and transgender in discussing who should be protected from harassment. The guide wasn't published until Deval Patrick, a Democrat, took office and in his place. Dominic, you think there's anything to this? You think this continues to establish the identity of Mitt Romney as, you know, a bit of a bully, maybe a bit out of touch?
I don't know about an identity, but establishing an identity. But I do know that this Boston Globe story gives this entire narrative, if you will, which is not good for Mr. Romney legs. In other words, in plain English, this is something that's not going to go away. It raises your eyebrow. I don't know if it's going to change anyone's mind, but it does raise your eyebrow to the type of person he was as a high school student.
To me, Jessica, it's not so much the high school thing, but it's the incarnation of that into public policy when he was the governor of Massachusetts. The same way that you could say his time at Bain Capital, whether you think it's, you know, political fodder or not, it illustrates what his positions would be in the public sphere. Do you think this is, you know, do you think this is a legitimate topic?
I don't. I mean, it is because it's a presidential race, so everyone's going to talk about everything. But it was a, I think, 20-something page report, and there was a couple pages. Most of the report was approved. There were a couple pages with that language that there were concerns about. And you have to remember, this is 10 years ago, and anytime you're in a public, whether it's public office or in the public school systems, I think they were trying to be sensitive to what middle school students who are young children are going to be reading and have access to, and how families are going to feel about that. And you do have to remember, it was 10 years ago, so I think you should cut him a little slack on this one. I don't think it's a big issue. You know, we've come a long way in how we're educating students, and it had nothing to do with him advocating for bullying or not wanting to stop bullying. It was just sensitive language in there that I think at the time families were concerned about having their children be taught in their schools.
No real time for an answer, but if you're advising the president, leave it alone or use it?
I would use it. I think it speaks volumes to his character.
All right.